Greetings again, everyone. This is Master Nigel welcoming you to Change Angel Activation, where we introduce you to extraordinary angels, change angels, and extraordinary tools and practices that allows you to activate the greatness in yourself and others. And in today's interview, I have an extraordinary change angel, someone who I've known for a while now, and she's been doing great work on the planet, and her name is Angel Debrena Jackson Gandhi. So I'd like everyone to meet Angel Debrena Jackson Gandhi. Say hello to everyone.
Hello, Nigel, and the rest of the fabulous angels out there.
Beautiful. So in today's interview, I'm going to treat her as if she's fresh from heaven, because she does look like she's just from heaven. And so she's going to enlighten us as if we don't know. And so she's going to bring a fresh perspective on things. And then she's going to share with us her vision of heaven on earth. And then she's going to share with us the ways, her modalities, the things that she's doing, her current work that is very powerful. And we'll let it flow from there. So let's see.
Wow.
Well, I'm going to just dive straight into it. Let's see. Debrena, are you an angel?
How?
Are you? It's like, are you? Yes, no.
Am I an angel? Yes, along with the other 7 billion humans on the planet. I think I may just be a little bit more aware of it.
Okay. And so how would you define for the general public who haven't been thinking about this subject what an angel is and how they're an angel?
Do I get to make it up? It's my take on that?
Your take.
Well, oh my goodness. Well, I would say that a change angel is a human being that has started to disentangle themselves, keyword, from what I call the matrix. And, you know, for those of us who saw the Matrix movie, which happens to be a lot of people, in the movie, the main character, Neo, is awakened out of a trance, virtually.
Yeah.
And he thought he was living his life. He thought he was making decisions for his life, and really he was operating inside a huge macro software program called life, and in the movie it's called the Matrix. And so I would like to think that I have started to break the trance somewhat and seek truth, not illusion, and you know, really be a caretaker of my mind and my body and my spirit. Still working on the body part a little bit more, but you know, really recognizing I'm a guardian of and a caretaker of, and that life is a gift, our body is a gift, the indwelling spirit is a gift, the mind is a gift. It all is a gift, and really living each day like that and preparing myself for each day based on it is a gift, and interacting with other people, whether it's close friends or whether it's a checker at the grocery store, interacting with them is a gift as well.
Beautifully. Very well said. Now, while you're here in this incarnation, what would you say your purpose was or your mission at this time?
Woo! Well, I seem to have an affinity for words. Speaking words as a speaker, writing words as an author. There's a TV show I host here in the Seattle, Tacoma area. And so again, speaking and exchanging words as a host, facilitating enlightening conversation with my guests. So that seems to be my medium for being a catalyst, is using words which are deliberate vibrations. And in the coaching work and the transformational work that I do, that's often my locus of access, is how people language whatever may be going on the inside, how they may describe using vibrations call words as to their perception and what's going on the outside, and that's a gateway that I use to help people rewire their thinking, and also challenge and examine their core beliefs, which operate like our human software, which I call thoughtware, and examine their thoughtware, and out with the old, in with the new, or out with what's not working and in with what would be more aligned and congruent with, you know, your desires and passions. So using words and spoken and written vibrations to be a catalyst and an awakener, a human alarm clock to say, wake up, come out of the trance, and to be an agent of transformation, deep, deep, deep change at the belief level.
Beautiful. Now, for some reason, your pictures... Oh, you're back. Good.
Oh, okay.
Your picture disappeared for a while, but you're back. So that's beautiful. So I see that you're doing some very deep work. What are the gifts that you are imbued with that allows you to do all these things, and how are you using these? I know that you're using the gift for the work, but like, can you describe your gifts that you have, that you're blessed?
Well, sure. Well, one is that what I've noticed is that often we have people that are visionaries and can see the big picture and the 10,000 foot level. But the people that are visionaries often don't have the attention to detail and the execution ability. So I'm really fortunate because I have both. And I think I know it's because of my upbringing. My father and mother were both visionaries, and my mother especially was also good at the organization, the detail, and the execution. So I had that contribution of, mother and father, vision and execution and detail. So that gives me like 360 degrees of effectiveness versus only 180.
Right.
One or the other is what we usually have as a gift, and I've been able to develop the whole circle there. So, I would also... Go ahead.
Well, I was thinking, I'm hearing abilities, right? The ability to see and do. What I was seeking was the spiritual gifts, like discernment and all these things that allows you to create all these combinations, just so that I can get your essence.
So spiritual gifts versus gifts, since that is a distinction. So in terms of my spiritual gifts, the gift of the word of knowledge, the gift of leadership and administration, the gift of discernment. My gift of wisdom is growing, but the one that's growing the most right now is the gift of the word of knowledge, where I've been working on hearing the voice of the Holy Spirit, and so since God is all-knowing, being able to tap into knowing that's beyond my human information I may have about someone, and being able to share that with them in a way with their permission and willingness, of course, because that's what usually has it flow in the first place around that person. But and so being able to share that with them in a way that either is an answer to prayers, or a question that they've been having, or a missing link to, that will help them go to the next level.
Awesome.
So those are the spiritual gifts.
Yes. Yes, I think the reason I asked that is because a lot of people are not aware that they have them, but when an angel is exhibiting them, they go, well, I might have that too. And it's just by hearing you and being around you, we're activating the presence of those gifts.
All right.
Let's see. Now, I know you're up to things on the planet, like you're actually in execution mode, making a difference. You want to share about...
Big time.
Yes. I know you're from a broad scope. So maybe you can give us the scope and then the specific of what is current. But I just want to get a sense of your range.
Yeah. Well, for the last 20 years, have really had a focus on liberating the minds, hearts, and spirits and bodies of women. And my first book, Sacred Pampering Principles, was about self-care and inner renewal. My second book, All the Joy You Can Stand, was about living with joy as an ongoing reality, minute to minute, day to day, not as a fireworks display where it fizzles out. And now I'm experiencing a major shift into a new focus area, which is love relationships.
Whoa.
As a coach and a love relationships mentor, and you know, I had my own journey around that gave me tremendous, in which I was given tremendous insights and revelations, and traveled for the previous 3 years all around the country, much to my amazement and based on request, leading my Love Academy Live Intensive. And that was so well responded to that it gave rise to a new book that will hit the nation in a matter of days.
Oh.
So at this moment, what'd you say?
What's the name of the book?
The Love Lies.
Ooh.
10 revelations that will transform your love relationships and enrich your love life.
Wow, that's very powerful.
Yes, for single and married women. So I'm taking my transformational work and my truth work and now shining that light on love relationships and busting up the myths and pulling us out of the matrix and waking us up out of the trance.
Very good. Now it sounds like, you know, clearly you've been doing a lot of work on the planet, and there's work happening now in your new format of the book, and there'll probably be more work after this, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
There's ongoing work that you're doing on the planet. And so I wanted to project forward a bit now. I'm assuming that you're going to be extremely successful in terms of accomplishing your mission.
Woohoo! Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, and that mission is making a difference and is going to make a bigger difference and eventually is going to expand where, you know, it's time for the angel to return to base. And my question is, what is the world going to look like when mission accomplished?
Wow. How far out in the future am I going?
As far as you can see.
Okay.
And now we're describing impact.
Ooh! So, wow. So for one, with regard to our body temples, we are recognizing the connection between our thought life, our emotional life, our thought patterns, belief patterns, and emotional patterns, and that which manifests in our body as dis-ease, disease. And we are able to recognize the message in it. We're able to recognize the causes that lead to manifestation of disease in our bodies, even those that are generational, which often manifest in babies, you know, or at birth, or quote-unquote genetic diseases, which to me are generational. And so I see a world where forgiveness work, and the forgiveness process is an active engagement for all people, regardless of their religion, faith, or absence of it, that they understand it as a spiritual technology that helps the human being stay in a place of freeness. I see us eating colorful living food that is adding life to us versus boxed, canned, bagged, dead food that is slowly killing us. I see us in love relationships that are juicy and deeply satisfying and fulfilling for the male and the female. I see covenant marriage being something that people aspire towards and recognize it as a very serious rites of passage that is for those who are prepared and spiritually mature. I see our divorce rate our divorce rate dropping from being the highest globally, 51%, to being low double digits, and us cultivating within our being and ourselves the ability to be in divine partnership, aka marriage, and experience the heights of it versus the lower side of it, which in America we're really good at experiencing.
But thankfully, in your vision, that all changes, is what I'm hearing.
Say it again?
In your vision, all that low level stuff that used to happen has changed as a result.
Very rare. Yeah, it's not a deal breaker. Here it's a deal breaker because we're not equipped spiritually when challenge comes in from the outside. So we split, we separate, and we divorce. So stuff might still happen, but it's not a deal breaker. There's a resilience. There's a resilience and a maturity.
Right. So there's a new way of relating in these kind of areas. It's different from how it used to be before.
Right. We're operating from what I would call, based on my new book, the love truths, instead of what we're operating from now, which is the love lies.
Okay. So this is why you're doing that work. So when I hear your vision, I hear we're creating or moving closer to heaven on earth, like living what we can. There's a potential of a better, more harmonious life here on earth.
Well, I think we're returning to heaven on earth.
Yes.
Returning to heaven on earth. I think that's an important.
Yes. Do you want to explain that some more, why that's important to distinguish?
Well, when you look at, if you take man out of the equation, if you just look at how God created earth, the plants, the animals, the symbiosis, ecosystems, the harmony, you only kill because you're threatened, even then, animals don't usually kill out of threat, they kill for food. They may injure the other out of threat. So if we take man out of the equation, we already see heaven on earth. We see fruit trees that go from a flower, and the flower transforms into fruit that we can eat. That's crazy. And the bee plays a part in helping that happen. Right. Or the sun, or a tree dies and becomes fertilizer for the next generation of trees. So we already see heaven on earth if we would take human out of the equation.
Right.
So then when you bring human back into the equation, that means we get to elevate back to our original state before our ego, some people might say before ego came into the being, or disobedience came into our reality. So as we learn to be obedient to the divine intelligence, divine love, and the Creator's divine love, we can return as we start to learn how to forgive and be guardians of our thinking and operate in humility instead of ego, and sharing and giving instead of capitalism and greed and materialism. We can return to that. It's all there as a capacity and a potential within us, I believe. And we see glimpses of it. We see examples of it. So that's what I mean by return.
Makes a lot of sense.
Cellular memory is still there. It's still encoded in our DNA.
So how does your immediate work contribute to that remembrance? I notice you're working on love relationships. Is there a connection between that and the return to heaven?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, first of all, I think, particularly in this country, that we have a very casual attitude about love relationships, and especially marriage and also sex. And it's very clear, based upon the conditions inside which the Creator says two humans are to join bodies, and the Creator's establishment of something called covenant divine partnership, aka marriage, that the Creator is very serious about the union of two people. We are casual. we are callous and casual about it, but our Creator is clearly not. And so as we start to, I think, bring the sacred back into love relationships and understand that marriage is not a contract, it's a covenant. We treat it like a contract in this country because of our commerce and business mindset. And that our ability to experience ecstasy, bliss, joy inside of a love relationship and a covenant marriage, I believe, is probably what gets us the closest, one of the things that gets us the closest to understanding God's love. And you know, you can't be in a love relationship or in a marriage and be deeply satisfied and not be forgiving. And to get to the place of being able to forgive, which is really a self-liberation process, which affects how you see others and yourself, begins to move us closer to walking in the image of the Creator in which we're made. And so, so love relationships are such a big deal. And when we continue to get an F in them, which is the grade I would give us in America, is an F. 51% divorce rate, that's F. That's 50% wrong if it was a test. We get an F, and it is a reflection, I think, of where we are in our ability to understand who we are, understand divine love, understand spiritual maturity, all those kind of things that are necessary to have awake and active if you're going to experience deep satisfaction and fulfillment. I'm not even interested in happy. Happiness is a fleeting and temporal emotion. I'm interested in deep satisfaction and fulfillment ongoingly.
Wow. You're serious about the return. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're on mission, and so I notice you're focused on women. What is that, and what about the men? And how do you? What's your explanation for that focus?
Well, up until moving into this new area of focus, which is love relationships, my primary market in terms of gender has been women, and for several reasons. The lived experience that I know best is in the body of a woman and an experience of life as a woman. And secondly, because I really believe women are natural agents of transformation. And, you know, as one of my good friends said, the children come through us and the men come to us. So we are a nucleus and a power influence, an influence of power, a center of influence and power on the planet. So it isn't just a bias because I'm a woman. If I believe that men were the agents of transformation in that way, most of my focus up to this point would be doing work with men. And so now, however, with the shift to love relationships, you know, that is expanding, of course, because I have a men-only version of Love Academy, and at some point I may write the Love Lies for Men. This first book focuses on the love lies of the women, females. So it's not about being exclusive, it's about being deliberate and intentional and focused and knowing where the biggest ripple effect emanates from. And in my experience, it's when you transform women, you transform the community and the globe.
Very well said.
In my humble opinion.
Well, you know, from my standpoint, you're a change angel, and you have authority to change at will. And the only authority that you need to check in with is the God that sent you. So I don't think we need to wait on the world's opinion for you to express what you're saying. And I think it's very powerful. I think more people need to hear it and be exposed to it. So I want to drill into your modalities, like the experiential, what some of the, can you give us some highlight samplings or touching of what kind of things you do to activate people into this new levels of awareness so that those who are watching or listening to this video can say, I need that, or, oh, I can get that. Give us a taste of some of the experiential things that you take people through.
Ooh. Well, in terms of live experiences, 45. In Love Academy 201, which is the advanced course, there's a forgiveness process that participants go through. And most of us have not experienced a live, real-time forgiveness process. We talk about it, and we reference it, and we agree forgiveness is necessary and healing is necessary, but I realized that people often had not been in a live experience of it with other people live real time. So there's a 5-part forgiveness process that I've developed, which was very much informed by the Holy Spirit, the communication aspect of the Creator, and it goes beyond the traditional approaches to forgiveness, which are really based in, release and let it go, release and let it go. And it was brought to my attention that before a release and a let go happens, that first a transformation of that emotional energy needs to occur. So I have a 5-part process that takes people through acknowledgement, 2 different levels of acknowledgement, confession, which is where you actually have to articulate something verbally and out loud with your own mouth, transformation, and then release. And it's powerful because you're doing it in community, you're having to be transparent, and it's extremely liberating and helps to clean out people's hearts and unpack the Samsonite luggage they've been carrying around, the emotional Samsonite luggage. So that's an experiential live process that's part of Love Academy. But Love Academy in general is a full-day intensive. So it's live, 3D, face-to-face, people-to-people, person-to-person. And I can do live in-the-moment coaching with people if time allows. Live Q&A, 3D, body-to-body is really powerful because often when you're doing things virtually, you can't always read the full body and the energy field, but when you're in person, you have access to all that, and so I find that really helpful. I'm really big in my teachings on people having a prayer and meditation practice. And meditation, not necessarily in the Eastern definition of it, meaning to relax the body and still the mind and use certain techniques to help you do that. I really consider that level 1 meditation. But I'm really big on people making it to what I call level 3. And some people may say there's levels beyond 3. So level 1 is relax your body, still your mind. That can be a huge undertaking for most of us because our minds are like a runaway train and we're in constant and perpetual, incessant and frenetic motion. And in this age of technology, we're overwhelmed and overstimulated, so to relax the body and still the mind is a huge order. The second level is to reflect and contemplate. Most of us never make it to reflection and contemplation because we're so busy surviving. So we don't sit down to think about what led up to that desirable outcome, if you got a good outcome, or stop to reflect on what led up to the undesirable outcome. And most of us are trying to forget and move as quickly forward as we can if we didn't get an outcome we want. And those of us who got one we want often say it was luck, or we attribute it, and we're not able to actually recognize and identify what converged to give me this desirable outcome. So that's reflection and contemplation, the second level. Then the third level, which is really where I want to, usher people into, is where you can hear the voice of the Holy Spirit. And most of us can't. or we're not able to distinguish it from our own inner chatter and self-talk. And that is a precious, invaluable, and immeasurably powerful resource that most of us are not accessing and living in accordance with. And I believe that takes us to an entirely different level of existence and an entirely different plane, so to speak, or dimension, when we are now operating in accord with the divine. And most of us are operating from the human and our humanity, which can get you so far, you know, nothing against that, but I'm talking about what's available beyond that.
So there's some special practices that allow us to access these higher levels. And
prayer and meditation. Start with prayer and meditation. Start with prayer if the meditation part is you're too jittery and overly stimulated to be able to sit still and just listen. Be in listen mode versus speaking mode, which is prayer mode. You're speaking, you're sending out communication. Meditation, as I teach, is where you're now learning to open your spiritual ears so you can hear internally, because you're not hearing with your physical ears the same way when you close your eyes and you have a vision, you're not seeing with your physical eyes. So begin a prayer and meditation practice. Begin with a few minutes of silence if prayer seems too far away. If you're praying, add in meditation. But begin where you are so that each day you're not just jump, run. Jump out of bed, jump in the shower, run out the door. That's what most of us do. We're stopping, and we're now putting into the construct of our morning time to get our minds clear, to get our spirits centered, to get our thoughts aligned, and to be intentional about the day we want to live and experience. Most of us are not doing that. And so prayer and meditation is a powerful way to do that on a daily basis. Before you go out into the world, interacting with other wonderful human beings and being bombarded with other people's desires and opinions, and most of us aren't doing that. So that's a practice. It doesn't cost any money. You don't need a special pillow or a special outfit. You don't need to go to Tibet to a guru in the mountains. Right where you are in your life, you can start by inserting some sacred time into your morning, because each day, as I mentioned before, whether we realize it or not, is a gift. So prepare yourself to receive the gift. And most of us are jumping out of bed, jumping in the shower, running out the door. That's the extent of our preparation.
Prepare yourself to receive a gift. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to interview you is because of your richness in gifting. And as far as I'm concerned, the world needs to know that you exist. And more, in fact, what I have discovered is that each angel has a network, and they're doing their mission, but they could be serving the same demographic as you. And something, wait a minute, if there's any other angels out there who's serving this demographic that you're serving, then maybe your work could be added to their work. So what do you think about that? And while you're thinking about it, who would be an ideal complementary angel partner that would allow both of you to expand? Because I think they're listening. So can you speak to...
Well, I'm big on collaboration, and that's been a hallmark of my work, you know, for 20 years. A lot of people can struggle with that or have bad experiences, and to me that's, you know, the only way to fly. And I have had nothing but great experiences. Now, along with that, I have gotten wise about who it's best to join forces with. And, you know, 22, 23 years ago, I only needed one or two experiences that didn't work out for me to know what I'm looking for and what are the indicators of it being a potentially positive collaborative fit. So one of the things I think that serves a good collaboration is that you both have a tribe and a following, and you have them in a database or a list or a way to reach them via keyboard or device, whatever. That there's a brand that's been developed around you as a person, that if you were to ask some of your followers, tell me about some of the characteristics or what you associate with this person and who they are in the world, those followers or those community members would be able to articulate it. They would have established themselves as quote-unquote an expert in some certain areas. And in terms of the contribution you both are bringing to the collaboration, it's pretty balanced. There's no dependency on the other to carry it. That means you're unequally yoked. So collaborating with equally yoked people is, you know, what makes collaborations work. And having a similar flock that you are reaching out to. You know, I had the opportunity to collaborate with a person who was highly connected, had an incredible following, and it was such a great learning experience because the collaboration we did was successful. But once we got into it, we realized that we had appeal to two different flocks. And at first blush, it seemed like they were the same. And for this particular collaboration, those who signed up for the joint event we did, 99% of them were from my flock. We had already agreed to split it 50-50, so, you know, if I've given my word and we've shaken hands, so to speak, we're going to keep the money arrangement the way it was and not change that, because that can really mess up the energy. But in terms of the dollars that flowed from that collaboration, the majority of it was from my flock. So that was a really good learning experience because I said, you know, I got to be sure I check a little bit more carefully in the future on collaborations to see, are we in terms of psychographics and demographics and where people are in their development, are we serving a similar profile of market? And we didn't realize until we were into it that they were more different than we realized, and it reflected in, you know, money down, registration. But it was still successful, hallelujah. But I learned, and I stopped, and we reflected on that, and I got a little, you know, dazzled by the profile of the person as a person, and probably didn't do quite as much homework looking at the person's flock to see, you know, were they similar.
So if I were to use this opportunity as a promo for you, and you know, who would you describe your flock as, and who would be? I know you gave the criteria for collaboration, but I'm specifically trying to promote you right now because I think your work is very important.
Got it. So,
1 second. Go ahead.
So I call my target market, the term of endearment I've given them is progressives. And progressives are African American women and primarily Caucasian women that are very forward-thinking. They're very progressive in their self-development and personal and spiritual development. They tend to be highly culturally aware. They tend to be open-minded. They tend to be about living their best lives and investing in self. They understand the value of it.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to be... Where'd you go, Nigel?
Closing the door.
They tend to be leaders and business owners, entrepreneurs, professional women, and also men, if I were looking at my male flock. They're readers. They, you know, vacation in tropical, faraway places. They have passports. Tend to be college educated. They may not be graduates, but they have at least a couple years of college. So that's kind of a general overview of my flock. Ages, I should mention the ages, primarily 27 to 55.
Beautiful. Now, one of the reasons why this piece of the conversation is important to me is because I'm having an upcoming conference, as you know, where I'm going to highly advanced change angels like yourself. And one of the actual benefits is the opportunity to collaborate. So I'm really glad that you spent this time to clarify, even though we're in the same room and we're inspired by each other, there's some what we call criteria, success criteria that you just spelled out that makes great collaboration.
Yes.
One of the other thing I am focused on is there are big name people out there, and then there's people like you where the divine is downloading something to you that is not something you got from following others. What would you say to what I call the emerging change angel, where there's a message coming through, but they don't hear anyone else talking about it? How would you support?
Yeah. Well, first of all, because you don't hear anyone else talking about it does not mean there's no one else talking about it. So we don't want to be, let's say, arrogant to think we are the originators of this, because as the Bible says, there's nothing new under the sun. And in every generation and in every era, there have been change angels who seemed radical, who seemed on the fringe, who seemed outside the box and were. And so I consider myself just a change angel in this century. So for me to think, no one else is bringing this message or has brought it is narrow-minded of me. And it was interesting when I was working on this book, The Love Lies, there was a concept about headship and leadership in covenant marriage that the Holy Spirit gave me that I thought was straight out radical. And I said, oh, no, 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 I do not want to bring that message. I do not want to have, proverbial tomatoes, thrown at me. And I haven't heard of anyone else bringing this message, right? I haven't heard of anyone else. And so 3 different times I fought including that particular love lie and love truth in my book. And God worked it out that on my way back from Raleigh, North Carolina, where I was leading a love academy and also was in the midst of finishing my manuscript for the book, there's a used bookstore in the airport. I didn't even know that bookstores, there was used bookstores in airports. And of course, I'm a bibliophile, a book person, so I go into the used bookstore because you often have older books out of print you cannot find in the modern big box stores. And I knew there was a book in there for me. I could feel it. Now I had to find out, use my discernment to determine what book out of all of these books is the one I'm supposed to have. And after about 15 minutes, a book chooses me. And one of the things I do when I buy books in used bookstores is find out when was it written.
Yeah.
This book had a modern cover on it, so clearly it had been modernized in terms of its external look, but it was written in 1959. And I got on the plane and started reading this book, and on page 7, the very thing I thought I was the only one. I thought I would be the lonely person carrying the charge for this radical message. Here was this woman with a book written over 50 years prior that was sharing the same message. So that's the first thing, is we must realize we're not the only, we're not the first. Scientists predict there's been, 125 billion human beings that have populated the earth at some point in its existence so far. So to think we're the only one or the first, I think is quite haughty of us.
The recommendation would be to look for the other, or
Say
assume
what?
your recommendation would be to what?
In terms of,
In terms of if you have a message,
mm,
yes, that's emerging through you, but yet you're still, I mean, what I hear is don't assume arrogance and think, you're the first and it's only you.
or the only, right.
Instead, you would encourage people to seek out or just deliver or be obedient. What's the procedure to?
Well, if you want to be effective, you have to know how to package yourself.
Hmm.
So just because you're getting a leading edge message or a message that the mainstream would consider radical doesn't mean you now start blowing your trumpet about it. You want to be sure that you're clear in your ability to articulate about it. You may still need to take some time to get clear and to be able to put words and language on what you want to communicate so it's not sounding all garbled and creating confusion.
Mm.
So just because you've been given the message, you don't just start blasting your horn all over the place. Take a minute, step back, and get yourself together, get your words in order, get your message clear, so people can access it and people can shake their head and say, oh, I get it.
Right.
And then you look at the different mediums you can make it available, whether it's book, whether it's podcast, whether it's a blog, whether it's a teleseminar, whether it's a webinar, whether it's an ebook, an article, a keynote, a poem, the list goes on and on. But you got to think about how to package it and what are the mediums you want to use so you can get it out to those who would resonate most.
Well, what I can see is that you are a channel for wisdom. And
A channel for wisdom?
yes, wisdom
Ooh!
from you. And all you need is the audience, and it will pour. So, we're at the end of this interview, so I
Okay.
really want to direct traffic to you. So where should people go to connect with you?
Yes.
And you have any special offers that you could put out now that would entice them to rush to where you are or to your site and meet you so they can get more of this channel of wisdom?
Ooh. Well, milliondollarmentor.net, milliondollarmentor.net is a great place to go. That's Grand Central for ordering my new book, pre-order through Barnes & Noble or Amazon, or once it's out in a few days, just ordering it online. I have a free e-mentoring network where folks that sign up get a couple of yummy free e-gifts, and you get weekly motivation and inspiration, and first access to offers, courses, various things that I'm doing, product launches. Also, I have a Love Academy that I'll be doing in November, so that once I get back from my book tour, making a virtual Love Academy available, so people can email me, Debrena at milliondollarmentor.net, if they want to be sure that their email address is included in the promotion about that. I also do one-on-one coaching, so again, they can go to the website and they can email me if they want to know more about that. But milliondollarmentor.net is the place to go, and they can sign up for my free e-mentoring network.
Awesome.
And also find out about my national book tour to 15 cities all around the United States. 15 cities in 6 weeks. Woo! So it would be great to meet people in person and be able to give a hug and sign a book.
Well, I know that you will be coming to one of my Change Angel Activation conferences. I know it's not the one in October, but you will be coming. So what I want to make clear is that people, number one, see what they're missing in October, because you won't be there, and number two, see what they will be getting when you do show up. And either way, whether they attend the conference or not, they can get direct access to you at milliondollarmentor.net. All right?
But the last thing I'll mention is I'm so excited that you're doing this conference, because separate from collaboration, which is a way of joining and connecting, but being in the energy field of others who are more awake than most, those who recognize their change angels and catalysts for transformation, the up-leveling that happens energetically, creatively, that happens when you're in community like that, is amazing. Yeah. So thank you for doing this conference and all of the miracles and the magic and the manifestations that I already know are going to come out of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being a beneficial presence on the planet and for being committed to your work and for being obedient to the divine and for being an excellent messenger, a clear beacon, a light, and a model example, and for redirecting us back to heaven on earth. Thank you for being on the planet. And I'm so happy that your vision of what heaven will be like here on earth before you return to base is so clear that people will be enticed to be in your presence. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nigel, Master Nigel. Woo, woo.
Well, thank you. All right. So this is Master Nigel. Thanking you all, audience, for watching here and meeting Angel Debrena. And we will see you at the next interview. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.